This is Delhi. Please stand by for the next broadcast. This is All India Radio. Bahurupiya is a traditional Indian style of street theatre commonly practiced by a community of impersonators. Today, in the National Programme of Features, we bring to you a feature titled Bahurupiyas, the People's Performers. The audio feature will put together socio-cultural and historical details to establish the Bahurupiya art as a prototype of elementary theatrical performance of traditional Indian culture.
Who are Bahurupiyas? Where do they come from? Do we get to see them around? Often we ponder over such questions and reveal our ignorance towards an old heritage performance art. Bahurupiyas is one of the various traditional folk performative art practiced in India. They are known as Bhand in some parts of India such as Kashmir, Punjab and Uttar Pradesh. In Rajasthan, Bahurupiyas are named together with other folk artists such as Nath, Nakkal, Bazikar. The artists who perform as Bahurupiyas are found across north and south of India as well as in India's neighborhood, Pakistan, Bangladesh and Nepal, giving a sense of a truly South Asian folk performative art. They work with the most elementary form of performance art, role play, adopting a character and playing out a role. A Bahurupiya convinces the audience into believing in them through their endearing dramatics.
बम चिक बम बढ़ के बोल बेटा बम बम अरे खिड़की खोल बेटा बम बम बढ़ के बोल बेटा खिड़की खोल जल तू जलाल तू आय हाय हाय आई बला को टाल तू जल तू जलाल तू आई बला को टाल तू कुंडे को तोड़ के ताले को छोड़ के सबको मोड़ के आय हाय खिड़की से निकाल तू अरे जमुरे बढ़ के बोल बेटा बम बम किधर है अरे उस्ताद मैं इधर हूँ जो करना करेगा मरना मरेगा तो बता दिन है कि रात है उस्ताद अगर आप दिन का हो तो रात है क्या कहता है रात है तो मेरा मतलब है दिन है क्या कहता है हम कौन है आप है हम आप है नहीं मेरा मतलब आप गधे हैं मेरा मतलब क्या कहता है अरे मेरा मतलब गधा वहाँ पे कुछ समझ नहीं आ रहा उस्ताद मेरी समझ में नहीं अरे हमसे मजाक करता है चल तू जलाल तू के बोल बेटा बम
My name is Dr. Naveena Jaffa. I'm a cultural heritage expert. The Bahurupiyas, they are traditional impersonators who are linguistically in different states of India, in Bengal, in UP, and in the south, in Andhra, in Karnataka. The Bahurupiyas are political, social, enacting cartoonists.
Socially, they maintain fluid faith and affiliations. Hence, religions are not boundaries for them when they have to choose a character to perform. According to a chosen character, they prepare themselves with appropriate costumes and makeup. And when they step out on the street to perform the chosen character, they decide their theatric moves and speech. When Bahurupiyas showcase their character, they infuse enchanting meanings and magic into the everyday life of streets, gullies, mohallas, and towns. The range of roles the Bahurupiyas play is astounding. From extraordinary to ordinary, from spectacular to mundane, they take up roles of different characters. Apart from playing roles of mythological characters, the Bahurupiyas have begun to adapt to popular characters from cinema, comic books, and television serials, keeping in view the changing times and cultural taste.
If you look at the Bahrupiya, he has the skill of making makeup, costuming, assuming the form of a larger than life character so that he becomes something to be looked at. He has a great skill of speech making, naturally inherited public speaking skills. These are the two main skills which a Bahrupiya or a traditional impersonator is supposed to be having.
The Bahurupiyas transform into their characters with a combination of detailed makeup, wigs, jewelry, body paint, and masks. Such performances are without a structured script, but the characteristic expressions are deemed inherent to the role.
The performance entirely depends on the moment and mood of the chosen context. Hence, these artists analyze their audience and adapt to their frame of mind during the performance. To do so, they deploy intelligence and quick wit, like imitation of body language, style, lingo, and deliver moments of hilarity and message. The Bahurupiyas often register impactful impression in the minds of their audience through mimicry and gestures.
नमो नारायण नमो नारायण। और भक्तों, अरे खड़े खड़े नहीं तो बैठे बैठे लिया करो, बैठे नहीं तो खड़े खड़े लिया करो, प्रभु का नाम लिया करो। कहते हैं कि प्रभु का नाम लेने से सारे कष्ट दूर हो जाते हैं। और ये देव ऋषि नारद, ये दुनियादारी जो है, नारद जी के बारे में ऐसा कुछ कहते हैं कि नारद जी लड़ाई झगड़ा बड़ा कराते हैं, परंतु ये दुनिया अपने आप लड़ती है, दोष नारद को देती है। नमो नारायण नमो नारायण। देखो ऊपर वाले की माया, कहीं धूप होती है तो कभी छाया। हाँ, इधर तो मोटे मोटे और इधर तो पतले पतले। नमो नारायण नमो नारायण।
Bahurupiyas aim to entertain their audience by grasping their emotions, making them laugh, even scare them, and eventually impart socio-cultural messages. Itinerant by nature, they go from one place to another for entertaining people. This way, folk performance of Bahurupiyas can also be seen in relation to modern theatre and cinema.
My name is Ashish Ghosh. I'm a retired teacher of political science from a Delhi University College, and simultaneously I had been doing theatre, specializing in children's theatre with keen interest on folk theatre. If we recall, in cinema, in short stories, we find the presence of Bahurupiyas, like say in a story by Sharat Chandra, we have a tiger suddenly appearing before the children. There is a film by Buddhadev Dasgupta, Bagh Bahadur. Third is, say, Ritik Ghatas Subharna Rekha, where Bahurupi had been used quite dramatically. And in these stories, we find the Bahurupis are producing sounds but not speaking. I think silence plays a major role. One can also say that perhaps when people didn't speak, most probably this is the oldest form, most ancient form of dramatic. That when there was no speech, there was this whole body and the face which could express and communicate. So I think there is a continuum from non-speaking characterization to one man telling stories, adding songs, adding dialogues, etc., then split into two characters, three characters. And simultaneously, what we find is also the mimetic actions in theatre that comes. I think there's a whole link. Its flow is there within the dramatic arts also.
Entertained by their acts, the Bahurupiyas are duly rewarded by their audience. Traditionally, these performances were in the fold of the Jajmani system, in which Bahurupiyas performed for their clients called Jajmans. In the traditional Jajmani system, service providers offered services to the clients. The Bahurupiyas were providers of performances. In the guise of gods and goddesses or any other suitable character, they recited the family tree of the Jajmans like a friendly banter. The Bahurupiyas also sung praises of their Jajmans at wedding ceremonies and other such auspicious events. In return, they received rewards in the form of a fixed share in the harvest and sometimes cash. The relationship between the families of Jajmans and the performers is based upon ancestral ties that pass on from one generation to another. This, however, changed as the system became relatively less functional. The Bahurupiyas began to perform for the larger public in public spaces like marketplace, mohallas, and chowks. This symbiotic relationship between the performers and the audience is essential for the survival of the profession. With the advent of technology and emerging forms of entertainment, the fascination for folk arts has been losing limelight. Once found in large numbers across the country, Bahurupiyas are now diminishing in number and are hard to trace.
When it comes to performing arts, which unfortunately does not have the category of being classical, then it becomes problematic because what usually is happening, if you see in the last 7-8 decades, that crafts and lok, that is the people's culture, which includes indigenous community cultures, like tribal cultures, what we call, they get blocked and locked and combined with crafts. So any market connectivity that happens for these arts, which are largely performing arts, they are marginalized in many ways. So you're having a crafts mela, just have a little podium somewhere where you have a sapera or a Bahurupiya or a magician or a bazigar or a nut. They are the add-ons. They are not really the center of the audience's attention. They also become photo opportunities for people. So it's not their craft, it is the exotica of their appearance. By exotica meaning something which is different, that makes a great reel for social media peppy inputs.
Not so long ago, Bahurupiyas were seen traversing length and breadth of India, north, south, east, and west. The tradition was passed down to generations. Essentially a nomadic community, the Bahurupiyas did not have permanent homes until recently. They visited villages, fairs, and festivals and entertained people disguised as gods and goddesses.
I am Vilas Janve and I have worked for West Zone Culture Center for 28 years. This art of Bahurupiya is a brave art. In North India, he is alone. He leaves his home for 15-20 days altogether. He eats outside. Perhaps he cooks his food in a dharmshala where he lives for 15-20 days. He takes permission of the police department for living in this area. and he has to prove that he is an artist. He has nothing to do with any conspiracy or anything. He is an entertainer. He will go from shop to shop, home to home, colony to colony, and entertain people in very indigenous style.
Due to the lack of identification documents, most of the artists were unable to avail government welfare schemes. Instead, they were deemed a suspect since the introduction of the Criminal Tribes Act in 1871 by the colonial government, which brought about an adverse change in the social and legal status of various indigenous communities in India, including performers like Bahurupiyas. Many of these tribes were small nomadic communities or those living on the fringes of the society with bare minimum to survive. In the post-colonial India, the act was repealed and replaced by the Habitual Offenders Act 1952, and these tribes were termed as denotified tribes. The discrimination, abuse, and social economic marginalization towards them continues till date. Bahurupiyas have volumes of woeful experience of harassment at the hands of people and administrations to narrate. The only source of solace from the hardships of life is their performance.
क्या हुक्म है मेरे आका? अरे हुक्म क्या है? आपदा है आपदा, प्राकृतिक आपदा, हर तरफ मौत का तांडव है। अब काहे का सोना, जागो जागो जिन काहे का सोना, आ गया करुणा, धरती समाप्त हो जाएगी। आज मैं हुक्म नहीं देता हूँ, मैं स्वयं तुमसे याचना करता हूँ। जिन क्या कहा मेरे आका, मैं ये सुन नहीं सकता। ऐसा होने से पहले इस कोरोना का खात्मा कर दूंगा। ये कौन? मेरी आवाज में आवाज मिलाने वाला कौन? मैं हूँ कोरोना। तुम क्या कर सकते हो? रूप बदल सकता हूँ, बहरूपिया हूँ, बहरूपिया। तुम रूप बदल सकते हो तो मेरे पास तुम्हें मारने के हथियार है। ये मास्क, ये सैनिटाइजर और ये खाना जो पौष्टिक है, समय पे सोना और न जाने क्या क्या उपाय सबको जाके बता दूंगा। लेकिन तुम्हें हाथ पकड़ दो। नहीं, मुझे भागना चाहिए। रुक, मैं कहता हूँ रुक। नहीं, किधर जाओ?
Once in disguise of a god or a goddess, the barriers of caste and creed dissolve momentarily. The Bahurupiya community from the Birbhum district in West Bengal belongs to the Bedia tribe. Earlier they were hunters, but with the enactment of various forest laws, they had to give up their hunting practices and take up alternate professions for livelihood. In Karnataka, the Bahurupiyas are the performers of Hagalu, Vesha or Pagati Vesha, also known as the Sadhus of the cemetery. Traditionally, they belong to the Budaka Jangama nomadic tribe of the Lingayat community and have been practicing this art for generations. Irrespective of their creed, they seamlessly perform the roles of the gods and goddesses from the Hindu pantheon. Likewise, the various families of Bahurupiyas in Rajasthan have been traversing far and wide, performing to amuse their audiences. Many of them have now settled in Maharashtra, Gujarat, and Bihar.
रंगों की छाओ धूप में वो आया है नए रूप में, रंगों की छाओ धूप में वो आया है नए रूप में। वो है एक बहरूपिया, उसे जान लो पहचान लो, उसे जान लो पहचान लो।
Historical significance of the Bahurupiyas can be traced back to the pre-independent era. Several folk tales highlight the crucial role played by them during the freedom struggle of India. They acted as spies, transmitting information from one place to another during the colonial times. Such images, lives and practices of Bahurupiyas have inspired various modern storytellers, poets and filmmakers. The princely states of bygone times were patrons of their community.
Some of the brave Bahurupis, they helped our freedom fighters. The Bahurupi artists, they used to go as a spy and live there, because Bahurupi artists are very fast in grasping. They know various dialects, languages, and their imitation of that character is so close to reality that nobody would have any doubt on him. And their grasping power is fast. They are so talented. So they used to gather the information and come to the king and say that this is what is going against you, so beware of it.
Such conventional patronage diminished after the independence of India in 1947, and the Bahurupiyas dispersed and migrated to various parts of the country looking for favorable conditions for sustenance. They continued performing for their jajmans under the larger Jajmani system in villages and small towns. This remains the only source of income for the majority of the community even today. Additionally, there have been attempts to create new opportunities for them, though few and far between.
कर्म अगर अच्छा है तेरा, किस्मत तेरी दासी है। कर्म अगर अच्छा है तेरा, किस्मत तेरी दासी है। दिल है तेरा, दिल है तेरा साफ तो प्यारे घर में मथुरा काशी है। मैं कौन? नारद, ब्रह्मा जी का पुत्र, भगवान विष्णु का अनन्य भक्त नारद। स्वामी नारायण नारायण नमो नमः। जय श्री सत्यनारायण। भजमन नारायण नारायण, हरि 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 हरि, नारायण 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 नारायण।
The community of Bahurupiyas is facing an existential challenge today. They are unsure about the continuity of their inherited tradition due to the lack of patronage. The number of Bahurupiyas is dwindling, with many of them having changed their occupation. Therefore, it's not surprising that the youth of India are caught unaware when asked a question, who is a Bahurupiya? Are we going to reduce this heritage art into a mere figment of cultural memory? The choice is ours.
In the National Programme of Features, you just heard a feature titled Bahurupiyas, the People's Performers. The feature was scripted by Nath Pathak. Narration was rendered by Sujata Rath and Nath Pathak. The program was produced by Meenakshi Mund, with assistance in production by Preeti Khate. A presentation of the Central English Features Unit. This broadcast came to you from the Delhi station of All India Radio.